I was chomping on chips in the school cafeteria when Leo and Finn plopped down next to me. "Heard about the crying lady?" Leo asked. I took a huge bite of my brownie and rolled my eyes. "Oh, come on, Leo. Tomorrow's April 1st, so whatever trick you and Finn are cooking up, it's not gonna work." Leo got all defensive, saying his neighbor's cousin spotted a pale, middle-aged woman in the old tunnel by the abandoned train tracks. Apparently the guy bolted when he saw her. She had no eyelids or lips. I still called nonsense, convinced it was a lame prank, but Leo kept poking at me, saying I wasn't gutsy enough to check it out, yada yada yada. Fast forward, we were walking home after school when Leo brought up the creepy lady again. Our bickering heated up until he threw down a challenge. "Whoever goes to that tunnel right now and films it gets a free box of chicken wings tomorrow." I figured Finn would jump at it. Food's his only motivator. But he hesitated, which tipped me off. These two were totally in cahoots, trying to spook me so they could brag about how I fell for their April Fool's trap. So I took the bait. I told them to head home while I started trekking toward the woods. My plan was simple. Hit the tunnel, record myself wandering for 10-15 minutes, and bounce. As I walked, I kept glancing back to make sure Leo or Finn weren't tailing me. Spoiler, they weren't. The train tracks used to haul coal before the war. I'd been there a few times with my dad, hunting for weird plants for our backyard. It's basically a forgotten nature patch now. When I got there, the sun was already down. The massive deserted tunnel loomed ahead. I flicked on my phone's flashlight to cut through the dark. The tunnel's short, maybe 30 feet, so I could see the other end clearly. I started recording. Vines and trees had turned the place into a jungle cave. Bats dangled from the ceiling. Water dripped from cracks, and the air reeked of moldy leaves and dead critters. I strolled around, snapped some selfies. 10 minutes in, no lidless lady. I fired off a voice message to Leo. "Better have those wings ready, buddy." I was about to head back when I heard a rustle in the corner. Thought it was a rat, but when I got closer, I saw a headless bat twitching in its final moments, a tiny puddle of blood beneath it. Gross, right? Then a gravelly voice behind me said, "Pretty nasty, huh?" I whipped around. There was a scruffy guy, maybe late 40s, his face twisted into a smirk as he repeated, "Pretty nasty, huh?" I was rattled but kept a straight face. "Didn't hear you sneak up," I said. He went on, "You come quiet, just like that bat. Didn't hear what got it either." I forced a shaky laugh. "You're a riot." His grin vanished. He shuffled over to the bat and crushed it under his boot. "Better end its suffering," he mumbled, eyes shut. Ghost lady or not, I was this close to freaking out. You know those horror stories where people run from a creepy stranger and get chased? Yeah, that's like 99% of them. I was so scared I wasn't sure I'd make it if I bolted. So I put on a brave front. "Well, getting late. Mom'll worry." I turned, keeping my vibe as chill as I could, and started walking. Did I dare look back to see if he was following? Didn't need to. A few seconds later, he was right beside me. "So, what's a kid like you doing out here?" he asked. "Just poking around," I said. "What's there to poke at?" he pressed. I kept moving, so did he. The tunnel felt like it stretched forever. "Just a random walk," I croaked, my throat dry from fear, words barely coming out. He was so close our elbows nearly brushed. I weighed every step, sensing the only way out was to act normal. Sweat rolled down my face, but I was too terrified to wipe it. He chuckled. "You're sweating buckets. Scared or what?" I shot him a look. Didn't stop. "Stop and I'm done," I thought. "Nah, just warm in here," I said, as cool as I could manage. We were almost at the tunnel's end. I could see the faint glow of a streetlight in the distance. Hope crept in. I might actually get out of this, but just as we neared the exit, he stepped in front of me. My heart froze. Our eyes locked. Tears stung mine, but he didn't blink once. Then he leaned in, his breath hot by my ear, and whispered, "Don't end up like that bat, kid. Catch you later." He pressed something slimy into my hand. I was too stunned to pull away, just closed my fist around whatever it was like a robot. Then I ran. I didn't stop till I hit my front porch, collapsing, gasping for air. My hand was still clenched, gripping something wet and squishy. I pried it open and let out a scream that could wake the dead. It was the bat's severed head.
I was scrubbing last night's dirty plates, watching Mark munch on his cereal, his eyes glued to his phone. Not once did he glance my way. It's been 4 years since Mark and I got married, and I could already feel the flame fading. What happened to us? Where was the husband who couldn't go a moment without holding me? I know he's not cheating. Mark's not like that. We were high school lovers, And even my sister Lena sometimes raves about our connection. I used to smile and tear up, believing it myself. Mark's not a bad person. He still looks out for me. When I'm under the weather, he has his assistant, Tom, send flowers and meds. It just stings that he used to do it all himself.
How about you come home early tonight? I'll whip up dinner, maybe something special, I said. He chuckled, not a warm, flirty laugh, but one that said I was being foolish. You know I can't, Sarah. I've got meetings all day. Let's plan it for another time, all right?
I watched him stand, grab his briefcase, and head out with a quick goodbye smile. I sighed, slumping back, regretting that I quit my job to be a full-time wife. At least work would have kept me occupied. Then my phone buzzed. It was Lena.
Hey, guess what? Mark just invited me to dinner.
What? April Fools, Sarah, gotcha, she teased. It's April 1st, come on. Anyway, I'm off for a date. Have fun, bye.
Lena hung up, and I sank back into my usual routine. Around 5 p.m., I was in the bathroom enjoying a steamy shower when a spark hit me.
Maybe I should shake Mark up a bit, something to jolt him, to prove he still cares. So, I decided to fake leaving him. Not for real.
Just enough to scare him. I'd pretend I wanted a divorce. I wrote a letter full of lies about how miserable I was, saying I was going to my grandma's for a week and that divorce papers were coming. I packed a bag and stashed it in the attic for believability, then waited for Mark to get home.
The plan was straightforward. When I heard the car pull into the driveway, I'd dart into the bedroom closet. From there,
I'd watch Mark read my letter, looking distraught. When I'd had my fun, I'd leap out, yelling, "April Fools!" He'd probably scold me for such a dumb trick, but we'd end up laughing and making up passionately. I ordered takeout for lunch, tossing the containers in the neighbor's bin so Mark would think I'd left hours ago. Around 11 p.m.,
I heard a car horn. Showtime?
Sarah, I whispered to myself. Mark walked in, locked the door, and called out, "Sarah, why's the house so dark?" I bit my lip to keep from giggling, tucked inside the closet. He stepped into the bedroom, scanning for me. "Sarah, where are you?" He poked around, and just when I worried he'd check the closet, he spotted the letter on the bed. Thank goodness, or my whole scheme would have collapsed. He picked it up, read it, and I saw his face go pale. "Sorry, Mark, but this is what you get for taking me for granted," I thought, smirking. He sat on the bed, looking genuinely upset. I started to feel a twinge of guilt, but the prank was just getting good. Then he made a call. "Hey, it's me. Sarah's gone. Yeah, we need to talk." Huddled in the closet, I frowned. Why was he calling someone else instead of me? Who was this person? 15 minutes later, another car rolled up. Mark hurried to the door, and I heard a faint female voice from the living room. Then Lena strolled into the bedroom, wrapping her arms around Mark like a vine. They kissed wildly, tumbling onto our bed, the one that was supposed to be just ours. The next few hours were a blur of horror. I watched them, glowing with desire, heard them gush about how glad they were I'd cleared out without a fuss. I was paralyzed, my mind burning with rage, my heart breaking from betrayal. I knew I needed revenge. They didn't deserve mercy. So, around 3 a.m., when Lena got up to use the bathroom, I crept out of the closet. She was at the sink, washing her hands. I slipped in, grabbing one of Mark's ties and started strangling her. I kept the faucet running to muffle her choked gasps. It took a while, but it felt like justice. Can you believe it? This woman mocked me that morning, joking about stealing my husband, and she actually did it. How cruel can people be? I left her body in the tub and grabbed my bag from the attic. Now I'm on a bus to my grandma's. She's got dementia, so it'll be easy to cover my tracks. I can't stop chuckling, imagining Mark's face when he finds her in the bathroom. Oh, how I wish I could see it.
What truly got me hooked on April Fool's Day was the excitement of tricking people and the adrenaline of executing a flawless prank. Once you dive into that, it's hard to step back. But last year I crossed a line. It started innocently enough. My target was Ethan, the new guy next door. He barely talked to anyone, always kept his curtains drawn, and had this odd, nervous energy about him. Naturally, I figured he'd be the ideal mark. I spent 2 days scheming, and the fake, bloody footprints were my stroke of genius. I dipped an old boot in red paint and carefully pressed it from Ethan's doorstep to mine. For extra fun, I slipped creepy notes under his door, things like "I'm watching and you're next," to really rattle him. The night before April Fool's, I stood by my peephole, stifling a laugh as I watched Ethan step out and spot the first note. He stared at it for ages, then scanned the shadowy hallway like he sensed eyes on him. He looked shaken, exactly what I wanted. By the time I placed the final note the next afternoon, I was buzzing with anticipation. My phone was ready to capture his reaction. I pictured him freaking out, maybe even yelling. But when the knock came, I swung open the door to find Ethan trembling, chewing his nails. His face was slick with sweat, eyes huge. He clutched one of my fake notes like it was a ransom demand. "Please, help me," he stammered. "I don't feel safe in my place." For a moment I almost chuckled. My prank had worked too well. But the raw fear in his eyes stopped me cold. His face was pale, his breathing shallow, like he was on the verge of collapse. This wasn't a performance. "Okay," I said, still half thinking it was part of the gag. "Let's check it out." I followed him across the hall. The second I stepped inside, something felt wrong. The air was chilly and musty. As I turned the doorknob, Ethan's cluttered apartment came into view. A foul stench hit me. "Man, Ethan, do you ever clean?" I muttered. We moved into the living room where everything was a mess. Drawers yanked open, papers strewn everywhere. "It wasn't like this before," Ethan whispered. "Someone broke in and did this." My eyes flicked to the floor. The bloody footprints I'd made were there, but they looked off. The prints I'd crafted had sharp, clean edges. These were smudged, frantic, streaked in wild patterns, like someone had been dragged. "I didn't do this," I mumbled. "What's that supposed to mean?" Ethan asked. Before I could answer, a faint creak came from the bedroom door. "Did you hear that?" Ethan whispered, his face rigid with terror. I nodded, my throat tight. We edged toward the bedroom, my pulse pounding. The door was slightly ajar, swaying like someone had just brushed past it. I tapped it lightly. "Anyone there?" I called, barely above a whisper. Silence. I pushed the door open. The room was pitch black, save for a thin beam of moonlight slipping through the blinds. I squinted, scanning the space. The bed was a mess, clothes scattered across the floor. Then I saw him. A figure hunched in the corner, his body contorted like a broken doll. His clothes were grimy, his face caked with dirt. He gripped something in his hand. A blade. He didn't move, just stared at me, eyes wide, lips curled into a grin. "Run!" I yelled, grabbing Ethan's arm. We tore down the hallway, legs pumping. Behind us, I heard a thump, footsteps slamming against the floor. He was chasing us. We reached my apartment, and I slammed the door shut, locking it just in time. For a few agonizing seconds, we stood still, hearing heavy breathing right outside. "Is he still there?" Ethan gasped. "Maybe not," I said, voice shaky, but I didn't believe it. My stomach churned. I called 911. When the police arrived, they searched the building top to bottom. "No one's here," one officer said. "But we found this by the bedroom window." He held up one of my fake notes, the same one I'd left earlier. Except now, below my scrawled, "You're next," were new words in jagged handwriting. "Nice game. Let's play again next year." "I didn't write that," I stammered. They never found the man. The cops thought he was probably a squatter hiding in the building. But deep down, I knew better. My prank had drawn him out. My fake threats had summoned a real one. I stopped pranking after that. But this year, on April Fool's, I woke up to a note slid under my door. No words, just a red handprint smeared across the page. Now, every year, I'll wonder if this is the year he comes back to finish what he started.